Okay, we are live. Wonderful. Why are young men voting to the right? Why are they voting conservative? Um, it's such a big mystery, isn't it? Such a big mystery. It's a trend that we are seeing in most Western countries. Uh, I don't have the statistics for each country, but you're seeing it in my country, Norway, other Western European countries, and I believe also in the USA. And why is that? It's such a big mystery. And mainstream media, they are like shifting between a two strategies. They are either going for let's ridicule the young man, and the other one is let's shame the young man. And that's where the problem is, right? Because they've done nothing but shaming and uh, shaming and ridiculing and making mocking young men. Young men are criticized. That's the kindest word I can use here. If they approach women, and then they're called all sorts of names, and they are called incels if they just, pull back and isolate themselves. So, why the hell would young men give a vote to the fucking bastards that have been calling them names for many years now? Why would they do that? Of course they won't. So this is not a big mystery. The left, or should I say mainstream and the left, mainstream media and the left, and the major political parties, which basically in Europe are leftist parties, in my opinion, they are now irritated and they're behaving like spoiled little brats because they can't get the votes from the young men. But you know what? I think that the young men should vote conservative. I think that they really, really should, because that's in their best interest. Now, I myself, I have never, ever voted to the left. So I have voted to the right when I have voted. Last couple of times, I did not vote because all the political parties we have in Norway, from left to right, they disgust me, to be honest with you. But this time I'm going to vote, and that's just because of two reasons. Tax, the tax system in Norway is insane. I'm going to vote for a party that will get rid of the exit tax so that I can get out of this country potentially. And the other thing, which is more like a general thing that I'm seeing, that this we need, this is social conservatism. We need to get a certain amount of conservatism into our culture here. We need to go back to more social conservatism. So I mean, that's just how it is. Now, why is that? Well, I'm saying that for the same reasons as young men are saying it, or I'm. This is important to me for the same reasons as it's important to young men. Now, if only men had the vote, which I hate to say this, in this climate, social media climate, you actually have to say that, yes, I do support women's right to vote. I have to say that, sadly, because there are people out there who actually think that women should not vote. So, yeah. Um, and yeah, I lost my train of thought there, but I would rather, let me just make this very clear. I would rather, if I had to choose, I would rather live in a country based on what is called Christian values. They're not really Christian values, but they call it, that's what they call it. Um, Basically, it's values based on yeah, we won't get into history lesson here, but okay. I would rather live in a country like that than a country that hates men, a culture that hates men. I would rather live in a country and a culture where I get to keep some of my money that I make from my hard work. I would rather, that's kind of important to me actually. So I would rather, if I have to tolerate politicians talking about their little God in heaven, okay, I'll tolerate that if I can keep a little bit more of my money. Um, the alternative is this is what we have now, basically. It's not as bad in Norway as it is in the USA and in the UK and so on. But the alternative seems to be a very racist, misandric culture. And I don't want to live in a racist and misandric culture. I don't want that. But that's where we are heading now. And the reason why young men are sorry, voting to the right is that they don't want to live in such a culture either. Of course they don't. Now, what is misandry? That's when you hate men, basically. Um, so and the racism, yeah. You know what? I I saw a debate on the TV a few days ago. All the major political parties were represented there, and the leftist bastards, they all said they have this knack for adding white. They can't say men, they have to say white men. And they themselves were mainly white men, but they can't see the irony in that. But it's like, why the hell do they expect people? Why the hell do they expect white men to vote for politicians who blame white men for everything? And they get upset when we don't. Actually, this is not rocket science. If you have politicians that are telling you straight out that they're going to tax you more and that white men are the reason for everything bad in the world, well, don't vote for those politicians then. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. This is why young men are not idiots, generally speaking. That's why they are more and more now voting to the right. They're voting for what's called conservative values. And I don't fucking care if people, these screaming feminists and these racist leftists, if they get into a temper tantrum and they I don't care, because I don't have to listen to them. They're not here. I have never met them in the woods here, so I don't care. Um, and they can scream and shout as much as they like. I'm barely on social media, so it's like, why would I care? They're not getting my vote, but I am voting this year, and I'm voting to the right again. So Okay. Now I have a daughter and I have a son, and they are, I think I can call them young adults now. I want them, first of all, when I'm dead, I want as much as possible of my wealth to be left. I'm not spending my wealth, right? So I want to leave as much as possible for them, right? That's, I know it's very popular now to say that you should just spend it all. And I think that's a very selfish, very boomer attitude, by the way. Not mocking boomers here, but it seems to be a thing now. Also, Gen X, my generation, um, they you shouldn't do that. If you have wealth and you have kids, I think you should try to leave something for your kids. Um, and and also, I want them to live in a culture that respects them as women and men. And I can't see that when it comes to the women, I can't see anything but disrespect from the left. And this might surprise some people, but they're talking about women's rights. But listen, the left don't care about women's rights. I've kind of, I think it boils down to one word. No, two words: jealousy and greed. It has nothing to do with women's rights, because whenever women, and I'm sure you've noticed this, whenever women choose differently than what the left wants, they get into one of their temper tantrums. So if a woman wants to stay home with the kids, or if a woman wants to stay, let's longer home with the kids, let's say 2 years, the first 2 years, the mother should be with the child the first 2 years. That's backed up by a lot of science. So I've never actually met a woman who doesn't want that, who wouldn't want that. Of course, they all want that. And I, as a father, I don't want to work a lot when now when I had small kids, I didn't want to work a lot. I had to, because you needed the money, right? But when women make those choices that are natural, biological almost, the left, they don't want that. They want to make that very difficult for women. So don't tell me that the left care about women's rights, because they don't fucking care about women's rights. They care about jealousy and greed. They want to take money from the people who have money, and they're jealous. Now, when it comes to the right, I have problems defining myself as a right wing person. I don't think I am. It often comes with, this ridiculous belief in a sky god and all of that. And I mean, when I see these people, especially politicians, it's not as bad as in the USA, but when I see them, they're preaching about their God and all of that, and that seeps into, what's the word, that creeps into their politics. My first thought, what I'm thinking is that they can just go and fuck themselves, and I hate them for that, because it's really, really, uh, I find it so stupid that I'm thinking, why should we listen to these people? But you see, the result of that lack of reasoning, almost you could say, lack of reasoning, is that uh, they kind of, through their all of those idiotic words, they kind of find back to solutions that seem to be solutions that most people want. Um, I don't know if that made any sense to anyone, but you know, um, and I don't think that it's realistic to return Scandinavia to a, a pre-Christian kind of culture. I don't think that's realistic. So you know, and it would be, can you imagine the outrage from the left if an old Norse kind of political party got the majority vote and they started changing Norway back to uh, pre-Christian values? Can you imagine? um, that would be beautiful to watch, but um, among all the evils that are the political parties and the political solutions, I think that me being basically an anarchist, I think that, and I'm a theoretical anarchist because I do not believe that anarchy could ever function um, in real life. So, yeah, I'm going to vote to the right again. And young men, I don't think it's complicated. I think young men, they want to be seen as human beings. They do not want to make excuses for their feelings and their needs. They want to be real about who they are. And also, you know what? I think a lot of young men now, they're actually disgusted with how young women look. I think honestly, I think that's part of the reason why they're staying away from those women. I mean, honestly, the way young women look now is so far removed from the image of the good, kind woman that it's just so far removed from it that it's ridiculous. So give that a thought. You just ponder about that a little bit, and it's and I think that if you're a young man now, you should vote to the right. You should vote conservative. And I honestly don't care if the party you vote for are saying that they're basing their politics on Christian values. Now that's from a European perspective, not like the crazy fucking people in the USA, because that's just ridiculous. The MAGA people in the USA, that's just honestly insane. So we're not talking about that. So it's like, yeah, okay, go ahead, call it Christian values. We know it's not. That's not where it comes from, but you can call it that. And the result is better, much better than what we have now. So that's what I want to say. And well, here's what I think. This is just a guess. The people, by the way, it's my birthday today, so I allow myself a little rant about this. And honestly, Paddy, we I'm putting in timeout. I don't, not today. It's just it's just too idiotic. I don't have the patience for that. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's kind of you. Um, wish I was 43. Yeah, I want to be 43 again. Um, yeah, well, yes, that's what we say in Norwegian. When we remember what we're going to say. So these people who like to say white men, and then you know what's coming, something negative, um, flooding in some place. Oh, it's white men, climate change. Um, women, a woman died because she couldn't get an abortion, which is, yeah, white men's fault. The weather was very cold yesterday, white men's fault, and all of that, So, uh, white men, those people who like to put white in there. The way things are going in Europe and North America now, I would not be surprised if what will happen is that they will be the victims of a lot of political violence in the future. Because there's this pendulum effect in politics and culture. And if you look at the UK now and Ireland, they are furious, and they should be, because they have been betrayed by their politicians. And you're seeing the same in a lot of other countries. And then you have these people, these obnoxious, especially these young youth politicians, and they grow up, they never do they don't know anything about life, and they move straight into positions in politics and their political parties, and they stand there and they say white man, white man, white man, and I say fuck you. Or actually, no, don't fuck you, because you will never get. I think these people, what's happening there is actually they're not getting any fucking because you know what. And sorry, there's been a while now since I stopped caring about YouTube, but I'll just say it straight out there. uh, I don't have statistics, just call it life experience, if you will, and what other men have. We've been talking a little bit up through the years. um these women, even the women who say that they are woke and and all of that, typically the women always get drunk. They go out and they get drunk, much more so than men, I would say. And then they're not drunk. Well, they are drunk, they're not woke anymore. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Not saying, again, this being social media 2025, I have to make things very clear, things that I shouldn't have to say. But you should never ever take advantage of drunk women, of course. um, the, Women don't like these leftist losers. Sorry, they don't. Women typically don't like woke men. And I'm using men. I really shouldn't say men, because they're not really men. It's like they usually don't like them. Sorry. It's just women tend to like masculine, confident men, not the gym bros that fell in love with their own mirror, their own image. Not those guys. That's not what I'm talking about. Masculine, confident men who don't fucking care about what these woke women are saying. It's just life. It's just how it is. Uh, you know, yeah, we have some examples of the obnoxious people. They're Andrew Tate, Logan Paul, and they're bastards, obviously. So it's like I think a lot of this. I said jealousy, and I think a lot of this comes from a place of not being seen as attractive. Now, the leftist politicians, especially the men and the women too, by the way, that I will talk about that, and I think it has a lot. It has to do with that. Especially there's this one guy. He's like this blob. He's a Labour Party youth politician. Um, oh, Jamie, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you. And horror business. That's very very kind of you. Few years following. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, yeah, Joe Rogan. Those are all fucking idiots, and I don't like them at all. Um, but proper masculine, confident men, men who can chop their own wood and you know, and stack the firewood so that it won't fall over at first gust of wind, right? Women tend to like those men, and like this blob on the left in Norwegian politics. He's so full of hatred. You can see it, and he hates those men that are like he thinks that he can never be. Um, so it's obvious, isn't it? It's jealousy, you know. And I think a lot of what's happening with the women. Women have always, I mean, since prehistoric times, we know this. They have cared a lot about how they look, which is natural because men are very visual creatures. And now we live in the me era. It seems like half the women out there they suffer from the main character syndrome. So they actually pinpoint themselves on the map, or the map in the landscape, with a piercing right in their nose. That's what I think it is. Look at me, right here. I'm the center of the universe. That's what I think it's about. Um, and so you have that, and you have the obesity. Sorry, I'm not, yeah, men are obese too. I have a few extra pounds on me right now. It's like, yeah, but the difference is that this is coming off after the competition in October, powerlifting, that is. Uh, and I recognize that I need to lose some weight, and I'm going to. But what I'm seeing, this is obviously the healthy at any size. I know, you know what I'm talking about. This trend where women, oh, you're so beautiful, and all of that. Oh, don't lose weight, and that's the patriarchy and all of that crap. They are jealous. They are jealous at other women. Sorry, that's what's going on there. It's it can be explained probably on a deeper psychological level. It's probably a lot going on in the subconscious mind as well. Um, and yeah, some of the women here, they don't like that I'm saying this, but I'm going to say it even more. And it's like women compete against other women when it comes to being seen as attractive. Women have always done that. Men compete with other men in other ways, um, and it's always been like that. And I honestly think that a lot of this fat positivity or whatever it's called now boils down to dragging. I need to drag other people, usually women, other women, down to your own level. Sorry, but I think that's very often what's going on. So it's like, yeah, you can hate me for that, but I don't care. Um, it's time that we're being honest about this. It's time that we are that we speak our mind. And again, I think young men, they will be voting more and more to the right because of the reasons I have told you about now. So yeah, um, now that I am into the area of my grievances, I'll give an example of what is probably a good example of double standards, or I don't know, not double standards, but let me give you the example. Okay, this guy, is he called uh, Pedro Pascal? Plays the main character in that TV series where the fungus makes people into zombies. Pedro Pascal, and he's been marketed as The Last of Us. Yeah, yes. Anyway, that guy, he's been marketed by his publicist. It's like people think this is random. People think this just happens. He okay. These things do not just happen. When you see him in social media, it's very often paid for, and they have a publicist, which is a company that designs their image, right? It doesn't just happen. So his image, paid for, designed, is the soft man who cares about women. There was this totally random incident where he grabbed the hand of a actress, and it was not creepy, no, because he's the good guy. Um, and yeah, he's emotional, and he's soft, and he understands women. Yeah, yeah, like, because people want to be fooled, right? I don't know how he really is, but that all of these images with these famous people, it's designed by the publicist. Please, uh, I hope everyone can understand that. Okay, so I'm saying that because I don't know what he is like. I don't know if he, in his agreement with his publicist and his agent, has the right to change any of that. I don't know. So we don't know the person behind the image, right? Okay, but it's interesting that he is seen as he is seen as this wonderful, caring person doing what he's doing. That's only because he's famous. If anyone else had done those little things, they would have been seen as a creep or something worse. So it's like, isn't this proof that women seek power? They see in a person who is famous power, and they are attracted to that. Again, sorry, that's just how it works. So that's just how it is. And I even saw, I shouldn't really read those things, but I did find it interesting. And he was in a sleeveless shirt on one occasion, and immediately it said in media, that social media, that look at his sculpted arms. Now, he just looks like an ordinary, I would say, if you take a man his age, he's in his 50s, someone who is quite fit, he walks, runs maybe. Um, he looks like someone you would meet out on the track here in the woods in his 50s. Nothing special. But because it is said that he has sculpted arms, which he hasn't, and that's okay. But I mean, because they just say that, women say, "Oh yeah, look at his sculpted arms." Honestly, I mean, can't you see? It's just because he's famous, and women are attracted to the power that they think comes with being famous. Now, in reality, actors have almost no power at all. They are puppets, um, and bound by contract to be puppets. So that's what I wanted to say, basically. Um, so, uh, Undead Insomniac says you're not wrong. Yeah, I know I'm not wrong. I've seen, I have, let's just put it this way, I have seen similar contracts. I am not on a contract like that, by the way, even though they do sometimes put contracts like that in front of even authors. So, yeah. Let's see here. Undead Insomniac says he has social anxiety disorder. Yeah, it's very common. Usually comes from the drugs that they're taking. So let's see. Just going through the chat here. Someone says, "Young man here, my friends aren't conservative, but they are Natsok." I don't know what that is. Natsok. Yeah, and I think, of course, a lot of this has to do with diet. The diet has a lot to do with your hormones, and your hormones has a lot to do with your behavior, and your how you look, of course. Um, if you eat a diet rich in carbs, fruits, vegetables, and so on, that's good for some things, but it's not going to increase your testosterone. And if you have a diet with a high degree of carbs, which is what most people have here in the West, we have a diet so high in carbs that it's like it would fit you if you run a marathon each day, you know. But it's not going to help, you know. So I was at a I won't say where I was because those people are really nice people, but on that occasion I heard people, women, it's always women, talking about eating and what they ate. Um, and it was straight out of the new governmental guidelines, which says, among other things, that you should eat 8 units of fruit and vegetables every day. 8. Um, yeah, okay. If you do that, I really hope that you find it very entertaining to sit on the throne toilet. That is. That's one thing. The other thing is, of course, that it's your muscles are going to suffer, your hormones are going to suffer, because all of that fiber is going to just flush out the fats that you need to build those hormones. So it's going to make you feel like shit after a while, and ironically, that's what's going to be the result of that diet anyway. Um, so yeah, I get that the ethical problems with eating meat. I get that. Not talking about the environment, talking about the animals. But it's difficult if you want to be healthy. I think that um, it's difficult to be healthy without eating meat. Sorry, again, Um, so it's like, yeah. And I was sitting there in that group of people, and I said nothing. And I heard all the people talking about what to eat to be healthy. And none of them, not the men, not the women, had a physiology that was above the minimum of muscular development. And this matters because when you get older, um, those muscles are going to keep you healthy. So, oh my God. Yeah, we get some historical experts here from time to time. And they can fuck off if they're going to falsify the past. So, so here it is. If there are any young men here listening to this, I have the following to say. Now, I don't expect many young men to listen to this because they don't have the patience for that. But if there are, I would say following: respect yourself, respect women, don't take any shit from anyone. Honestly, don't take any shit from anyone. Um, Understand that you matter, and you should not make excuses for being what you are. You're important. People need you. And never ever forget that those women and men who are trying to put you to make you feel bad for being who you are, those people who like to use the word white men, oh, the bad white men, all those people there, they can all go and fuck themselves, which is probably what they will have to do because they're not getting any. Okay. That's all. Have a wonderful day.